name is Ian Bruns, and I was just playing the trumpet solo from Danzon No. 2, which is part of the Cuban danzon genre of Latin music. Today, we will be taking a deep dive into this genre, so please stay tuned. Latin music dates all the way back to the 1500s, when African slaves were brought to the New World, or as what we call today, North America. Without access to modern instruments, slaves were forced to use only their voice and basic percussion instruments. This style of music, commonly called Afro-Cuban at the time, was where the dance style of rumba was born. Now rumba is a dance style where one must really embrace their partner and establish a strong sense of intimacy. It embodies moves like suggestive movements, swaying hips, and many people describe it as the male pursuit of a woman. People like Lou Quinn and Joan Sawyer performed the rumba dance in the United States ballrooms in the early 20th century. They gained fame and popularity for doing so, and the dance finally took off and gained a strong foothold in American culture in around 1920. In fact, rumba is one of the most popular ballroom dance styles today. Over time, many genres of music that encompass this rumba/Latin influence have developed. These include, but are not limited to, reggae, Latin jazz, bossa nova, the Cuban danzon, hip-hop, R&B, and many, many others. Today, I want to take a deep dive into the Cuban danzon and look at some famous danzon pieces and the music theory that goes with them. Despite the danzon being strongly associated with Cuba, its origins surprisingly lie in Europe. Dr. Hetty Malcolmson, a professor of ethnomusicology and anthropology at the University of Southampton in the UK, examined the rich and nomadic history of the danzon. The dance became popular among people in England and many other European countries, including France. Eventually, the dance's influence reached Spain, where it was called the contradanza. Spain sold the Caribbean island of Saint-Domingue to France. After this purchase, French culture was soon adopted throughout the island. During the late 1700s, there were numerous slave revolts on the island, which caused the island's inhabitants to flee to, guess where, Cuba. Now, Cuba already had elements of the contradanzon present in their culture, but the elements that the French brought with them created this melting pot, which today we call the Cuban danzon. So a fundamental rhythm to any danzon song is called the tresillo. The tresillo is one where it accents the first, fourth, and seventh eighth notes of a 4/4 bar. It looks like this. If a 4-beat backbeat is applied by a bass or snare drum, we can really feel the syncopation, which basically means an offbeat melody or section of music. Basically like where the main beat falls on the eighth note, so instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, it'll be and. The ands are basically in between the downbeats, the big beats. Another common rhythmic figure used in danzon music is called the cinquillo. It accents the first, third, fourth, sixth, and seventh eighth notes. It goes like this. And as you can see here, both of these rhythms are syncopated. Robin D. Moore, an associate professor of music at the University of Texas, wrote about the danzon and its background and influence. He talks about how the original ensembles that played danzon repertoire consisted of violin, acoustic bass, clarinet, trombone, and cornet. He also mentions the use of certain percussion instruments that are unique to this genre, such as the timbales and guiro. Danzon No. 2 is an orchestral piece composed by Arturo Marquez in 1994, and is what many people think of when they first hear the word danzon. Aside from the word literally being included in the name, Danzon No. 2 is a prime example of all the characteristics associated with the dance. Marquez states, "The idea of writing the Danzon No. 2 originated in a 1993 trip to Melinico. I started to learn the danzon's rhythms, its form, its melodic outline, and listened to old recordings by the Asarina and his Danzonero Orchestra. The clave is an integral instrument to Danzon No. 2, as it lays down the recurring beat that we hear throughout the song. The piano plays counter melodies or a secondary melody that assists the main melody. With each background voice having a very specific role, the solo clarinet and oboe carry the initial melody. We begin in A minor, and we use the cinquillo rhythm in every other measure. The beginning chords alternate between A minor and E major, which has a really nice, almost sad sound. The relationship between the minor 1 chord and the major 5 chord is a double half-step motion. The fifth of each chord stays on the same pitch, but the root and third each move down a half step. This gives it that sound. There are a couple style changes throughout the song which include drastic shifts in tempo. Marquez intended for these shifts to represent different moods and emotions within the song. For example, we start with a very laid-back, free feeling, and then move on to a more march, militaristic, rigid style. Just a fun fact, Danzon No. 2 changes key a total of 13 times. There's also a pretty fantastic trumpet solo near the end. Let's take a look. The handful of meter changes, like where it goes from 4/4 to 6/8 to 3/4 and 7/8, really throw off the groove by taking away or adding an eighth note or two. One of the main themes is present in the strings and horns for the duration of the solo, and it really shows how much care and thought Marquez took into writing this section. I'm biased, but man, what a good song. Another fantastic song which encompasses the whole Cuban dancehall vibe is a piece by Robert Sheldon called Danzas Cubanas. Written for a typical concert band, Danzas Cubanas is full of energy, excitement, and fun. It features 3 solos and is one of my favorite pieces that I've played. Let's take a look. It starts off with this impactful syncopated figure, which lets the listener know that they're in for a wild ride. The percussion then literally takes off for 12 bars. They have the entire floor, laying down a Cuban beat that acts as the engine for the song. Each percussion part adds in after 2 bars, which lets the listener realize how complex it is. The second part is the main theme of Danzas Cubanas. The trumpets start with the theme, with the horns and trombones playing dissonant interjections, the low voices playing the tercio rhythm on the root and fifth of the chords, and the percussion keeping the beats. The ballad, or middle section of the song, is prefaced with a beautiful flute cadenza, which is a free, unmetered section of the music. Usually in cadenzas, the performer gets to add their own personal touch to the music, which can include embellishments, slowing or rushing the tempo, really just adding their own personal touch. In fact, Danzon music is known for this feeling of looseness. We then move into a salsa, where we first hear the güiro, a percussion instrument that has this scraping sound, very unique. The salsa section repeats thrice, and more voices are added in each time. Let's take a listen. The finale of Danzas Cubanas features an exciting trumpet solo to close things off. As we increase the tempo, we can feel the sense of urgency like a race to the finish. Long, semi-chromatic runs in the upper woodwinds give a feeling of chaos and uneasiness, but the trumpet solo is the main focus here. The orchestration thins out in order for the soloist to be heard. And that, my friends, was Danzas Cubanas, a fantastic piece that one might call a celebration of the Cuban danzon style of music, one of the greats. To wrap up, today we covered a brief history of Latin music, the Cuban danzon, and the music theory behind the danzon. The Cuban danzon is extremely popular in the traditional ballroom, and its influence is reaching the concert band, orchestral, and instrumental genres of music more every day. Thank you so much for watching. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you.